Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. My name is Muhammad Anul Hizmi bin Jalil Abidin. My metric number is BT233061011. Today I will present my part, which is part 1, relate to relative frequency and cumulative relative frequency. This is the data for the number of visits and the number of purchase orders. Based on the data, I have made a frequency based on the classes that I have divided into 4 classes. The first class starts from 20.0 to 29.9 until the last class, which is end with 50.0 to 59.9. For the first class, the total frequency obtained is 4, based on the e-commerce websites that include numbers around 20.0 to 29.9. For example, Carousel, EasyBuy, Signature Market, and PG Mall. These 4 e-commerce websites are in the first class range. The frequency for second class, third class, and fourth class is 13, 11, and 20 respectively. The total frequency is 30. As for the amount of purchase orders, I have divided them into 13 classes, which is starting from 110.0 to 119.9 until ending with the last class, which is 230.0 to 239.9. The frequency of the first class is 2, while the frequency of the last class is 1. We find this frequency is according to the estimate number that has been set on each different class. All those frequencies can be obtained from the same table that refers to the number of purchase orders. Next is to find the relative frequency and the cumulative relative frequency. Based on the frequency that has been obtained, we can find the relative frequency. Frequency divided by total frequency to get relative frequency for each row. For example, the frequency for the first class is 4, then divided by the total frequency, which is 30. The answer for the relative frequency is 0.133. For the second, third, and the fourth class, use the same method to find relative frequency. As for cumulative relative frequency, it has to do with relative frequency. How do we find these values? We take the relative frequency value from the current class and we add it with cumulative relative frequency from the previous class. The highest values for cumulative relative frequency is only 1 and cannot more or less than 1. So here the graph and chart to compare the relative frequency and cumulative relative frequency for number of visits. We already use a pie chart for relative frequency and the line graph for cumulative relative frequency. The last one is the data for number of purchase orders. We already have the frequency and we need to find the relative frequency. How we do that? Just do the same thing, which is we need to divide the current frequency with total frequency. The cumulative relative frequency is calculated by adding each frequency from a frequency distribution table to sum of its predecessors. The last value will be equal to the total cumulative relative frequency. Here the graph and chart to compare the relative frequency and cumulative relative frequency for number of purchase orders. We already use a pie chart for relative frequency and bar graph for the cumulative relative frequency.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Nur Hafiz Anas bin Mitol. I want to present part 2, calculate and compare measure of central location between the two metrics. From this table are for number of visits in million and the mean is 37.7. To calculate mean in Excel is equal average columns and select all data. And the mode in this table are 34.1 because it came twice is Q10 and the Vladini. And the median is 34.5. To calculate median in Excel is equal median, column, and select all data. But if you want to calculate manually, you can take both of two middle data from the table, add them together, and divide it by 2. And this is table for number of purchase order in million, and the mean is 166.8. To calculate mean in Excel is equal sign, average, and select all data. And next, the mode in this table are not available because there is no same number count as twice. The median in this table are 163.9. To calculate median in Excel is equal sign, median, and select all data. But if you calculate manually is take two data in the middle, add them together, and divide it by 2.
My name is Effendi bin Saidi. My number metric is BB23161085. My part is number 3. It's about calculate percentiles and construct box plot in each dataset. To calculate the percentiles, we have to follow this formula. There are 3 percentiles we have to calculate. The first is 25%, the second is 55%, and the last is 75%. Using the formula, we will get the answer for the number of visits and number of purchase order. This answer from the percentiles, we have to calculate the IQR to find the outline for the box plot after using the formula that have been given. We will get the maximum, also the minimum for the data. After get the minimum and the maximum, we already can plot the box plot like this graph. That's all from my part, FND. Thank you.
My name is Muhammad Abis bin Saryo and my matrix number is BB233061024. Next, I will be talking and explaining about my part, that is part 4, calculate and compare measure of dispersion between the two datasets of two metrics. First, we will find a range value, which is maximum value minus minimum value. So for the number of visits, 54.20 millions minus 23.00 millions equal to 31.20 millions. And for the number of purchase order, 231.90 millions minus 116.50 millions equal to 115.40 millions. So we can conclude that the number of purchase order range is more higher than the number of visit range. Second, we will find the mean absolute deviation. So MED is an average of the absolute differences between the observation and the mean and divided between the total of data point. And for the MED of number of visit is 223.44 million divided by 30 equal to 7.45 millions. And for the MED of number of purchase order is 769.74 millions divided by 30 equal to 25.66 millions. So the MED number of purchase order is greater than the MED of number of visits. Next, for the variance and standard deviation. Variance for the number of visits is 2206.98 millions divided by 30 minus 1 equals to 76.10 millions. And for the standard deviation of number of visits, which is square rooted variance, and the answer is 8.72 millions. for the variance of the number of purchase order is 28635.45 million divided by 30 minus 1 equals to 987.60 millions. And for the standard deviation of number of purchase order, which is square rooted variance, the answer is 31.43 millions. By this, we can conclude that the variance and standard deviation of the number of purchase order is higher than the number of visit. Lastly, for the coefficient of variation. Coefficient of variation formula is standard deviation divided by the mean. For the number of visit, 8.72 million divided by 27.7 equals to 0.23 millions. And for the number of purchase order is 31.43 millions divided by 166.8 equals to 0.19 millions. So we can conclude that the number of visit has more relative of dispersion than the number of purchase order, because the number of visit is more higher than the number of purchase order. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Nur Hafiz Anas bin Mitol. My matrix number is BB233061068. I want to talk about part 5, calculate and interpret measure of association between the two metrics. Firstly, a measure of association contains of covariance and correlation of coefficients. The covariance is 266.0.801618391. To calculate covariance in Excel is equal signs covariance columns and select the both of data. And the correlation is 0.980490117. To calculate correlation in Excel is equal sign correlation column and select the both of data.